I would want
Okay,
them all.
so let's start. I'm gonna intro this week's podcast with the correct number for the first time in a month
Nice.
because I've been one episode back for like a month now, which is fucking amazing.
What
So
episode is it supposed to be?
it's supposed to be episode 14, and I think I've introed the last three as 12.
I see.
Yes.
Excellent work. Excellent work.
So I could either intro this as 12 and keep that streak going, or do it correctly. And I think I'm gonna go with correct.
With 12? This is episode 12, number 3.
Well, it would be like 12 number 4, but that's okay. So, now that that small rant about me not being able to do this right is over, welcome to the 14th episode of the Dapper Gaming Podcast for May 14th. It's only been like over 2 weeks since we did an episode of the podcast because Tyler didn't have internet for 2 weeks and didn't tell me.
Woo!
But we got Jeff here today. Jeff's awesome. It's nice to see Jeff back. Hasn't been on in like a month.
Yeah, I'm a busy man.
So
I claim.
So you claim. So the first big question that's really burning in everyone's mind, Jeff, is you and the old lady coming to board game night on Saturday?
Probably not. We have a bunch of midterms and shit. How we have midterms already? Summer semester's fucked up.
The summer semester's so broken. It
It's
goes all the way
fucked.
until like the end of August.
Yeah, she's had 2 midterms already. 2. It's like
We're
2
a week
weeks in.
Dude,
Two-
no, we've
yeah.
had one real week. One real week of
she's,
classes.
she had 2 midterms this week
How?
already.
So
That's how
broken.
retarded summer is.
It's a long weekend. Come on,
Yeah.
you got 4 days.
Yeah,
No, you don't. Do you have classes on Fridays? Adam doesn't.
I do.
I asked Adam if he was gonna come, and he was like, because I was like, it's a long weekend, so I'm gonna do something. We're gonna have people over. He's like, every weekend's a long weekend for me. It's like, fuck you, Adam.
I wish I had Friday off. No, I've got like 2 classes on Friday.
Last semester, I had the longest weekends. Thursday to Monday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
So what have you been playing since BioShock? Since you finished that?
I haven't started another major game yet. I've been farting around in League of Legends and Minecraft still. Just
You should
building
play Dota or
giant
Smash
empires.
Rock with me.
Dota? Dota's hard. It's really hard to swap MOBAs. I don't understand why. Just so many items and champions and shit, and I just don't get it.
Disappointing. Did you decide to remake all of those block functions in Minecraft?
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put like a week of work into something and then realized it just was not happening. So I'm back a week from where I was yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
I talked to you like a week ago. Did you just like waste the last week trying to re-implement all the block functions for like Minecraft so that you can make a crazy block?
Well, I got those in a day, and then I realized that the way it's programmed just screwed me over, and I had to like do some weird super hacky shit just to get like certain properties of blocks to work. Because I'm basically trying to replicate any block with one single block, which is really hard in Minecraft. And then that was working great, and I was like, yay! And then I realized when the world saves and reloads, it fucks up and replicates dirt every time.
Amazing.
So I'm like, hey, it works great! Save game, quit, reload game, launch, and it turns into dirt.
That's awesome. You could have a world made of dirt. Everything could be dirt.
No, it's just
All
every
the
block.
inhabitants would be like that kid from Charlie Brown.
Oh god. You mean the one who like has flies around him at all times?
It's not flies. It's like always dirt. Like literally
just
like
dirt?
a cloud of dirt around him when he's walking. It's
Ugh.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's every entity does that. They just puff out effects of nasty dirtiness.
That's clearly what you should do with your mod. Is just make it all. Make
I
the world
agree.
just spawn in as dirt, and then put in a particle effect surrounding all moving entities. Anything alive.
Sounds good. I should do that. Just do I make it like massive so it's just like you can't even tell what things are? There's just dirt coming at you, or do I make it just enough that you're like, what is happening to that thing? What is coming out of its pores?
The latter option. It's
Okay.
grosser.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Otherwise, everything just ends up being a dirt monster.
Hmm. You can't really tell. You're like, is that one going to explode or is it just going to smack me?
It'd be amazing if you couldn't tell and they just exploded on you, though.
Some of them would explode and some of them would get to you and start smacking you in the face because they're zombies. That'd be
That
fun.
would be fantastic.
I'll look into it.
Do it. You have to do that, or you have to come to board game night. Don't. Those are two options. You can't study for midterms for 4 nights in a row.
No, but yeah. Free time's a bitch.
Everyone knows what sound I just made with
Hmm.
the wrist thing.
Hmm.
So you've been playing basically nothing new.
No, I've been spending all my time working on my Minecraft mod and then erasing everything I did.
Fun. What's your Minecraft mod even supposed to do at the end of the day? I thought you were trying to make some crazy block.
I'm trying to make it so that if you place blocks in a certain shape, it will cause magical effects on the world, which is actually a bitch to do. It's really hard to it's really hard to optimally detect it and deal with it. So I gave up. I wanted it to be able to be like, if you make it out of stone around dirt blocks, it'll work. It's like as long as there's just a different block type making up the shape. But it didn't work out like that. So I'm gonna make a custom block that you make now, and you just make the shape out of that custom block, and it'll work.
Fun.
Be interesting. I'm trying to make it like complex enough to be useful and not just this stupid extra thing that you end up with that you're like, there's one good thing this mod does. That's the only reason it's in here. I'm trying to throw a lot of like ability to vary things and kind of like stack effects on top of each other to create cool ones you didn't think of and that sort of thing. We'll see how it turns out.
It sounds interesting. I have no interest in working inside of Minecraft to make shit, though. It sounds terrible. Sounds
It's
almost as bad as trying to develop a game for 5 platforms. 5? 5. Nope, 6. I lied.
feel like that might be worse.
Yeah. I've abandoned 5 of those 6 platforms, though, so... I was like, you know what? I could actually only really test 2 of these on actual hardware. So I'm gonna just abandon all of them but PC.
There you go. That's how it works.
Yep.
Anything else is a bitch.
The architect, it's set up in a way where I could implement them at a later date if I like had a Wii U dev kit. Then I could put that shit in there and make it work later down the line. But
Yeah.
but not now. So
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah,
Just make a prototype on PC and then do some wonderful porting.
yeah. Well, now that I played Game Dev Tycoon, that's a game that I'm going to talk about right now. By the way, I'm going to talk about that game because that's a game I played, at least since the last time we did the podcast. But I've been playing Game Dev Tycoon, which is not a good game. It's kind of ironic, really, because the object of the game is to make good games, and the
Yeah.
game itself is bad. It's addicting, but it's bad.
It's like a Farmville or something, or what?
I would describe it much like Farmville in that they are both addicting games which are bad, but it's not as bad as Farmville. It's more of a game than Farmville. It's a game that lacks any kind of feedback, though, which I complained about that game not being very good, and a lot of people were saying the game's really great, and then actually today, like, Total Biscuit released his, like, first impressions of it, but he had actually played the game for 20 hours before he did it. And
Yeah.
he completely validated everything I said about it. I was just like, thank God, I'm not the only person who thinks this game is actually bad as a game, because I was getting worried there, as if somehow the entire internet fucking disagreed with me, and that would have been a scary thing, because I don't think that's ever been the case.
It's only like 50-50.
Not really. Like, every critic thinks that game is good, but it's the premise. The only thing that game has going for it, and I said this in my review, is the premise. The premise completely locks people into the game. Like, people like me and people like you, who fucking love games and want to make games and think that they know how to make good games.
Yeah.
And so instantly the game is engaging, but purely based off of premise. The actual execution of the game is like way too simplistic. All you do is move 3 bars up and down, but the bars are really arbitrary, and so they're not very, like, it'll be like balance world design, graphics, and sound. But it's like, okay, well, what's world design inside of a racing simulation game? Because you already had level design at another stage of development. So what does world design refer to? Because world design generally refers to both like everything in the world. So if you're like making an RPG, it refers to like the races inside of the world. It refers to the locations in the world. But level design also refers to that stuff. So it's just overall incredibly arbitrary. And the bars don't have a measurement on them. It's supposed to be like a time balance thing. You move these 3 bars up and down, and then there's like a preview bar at the bottom where it kind of just shows how much of basically how much time is allotted to each thing out of like the total amount of time. That they never tell you how much that is, but it's always the same amount of time. And they never tell you like any actual measurements for how much time you're spending on stuff. But the game is based around allotting time to do stuff. So it's like, there's just no measurements. The entire game's completely arbitrary bullshit. Unless you go on the wiki page and it's like, do this, and then you score a 10 out of 10 every time. So it's just like,
When I heard the premise of the game, I was like, I don't think you can actually make that fun or playable. It sounds kind of retarded.
The simulation's way too simple, and it's just very boring. And I got like 4 hours into the game, and I made my own game console, and it sold pretty well. It took 20% of the market share, which was pretty substantial because it was like PC, PS4, Xbox Infinity or whatever they're gonna call it, and then my console, and the like Xbox Infinity, which, by the way, the only way that you can affect console sales is once you get your own console on the market.
Yeah.
Or once the 4th gen, or not the 4th gen, but the 8th gen. We're going into 8th gen this year, right? With the new Xbox and PS4.
Sounds about right.
But once you go into that gen, like if you develop certain technology like a digital distribution platform, then you can like increase PC market share because you basically make Steam.
Yeah.
And like the game has some interesting ideas, but it's just way too simple. But I released my own console. I only released one game for it, and it was an MMO. It was a fantasy role-playing game.
Yeah.
It was based on World of Warcraft, basically, and somehow it sold more copies than I'd had sold consoles.
Interesting.
Yes.
Is that the point where you went, game is bad?
That's one of the things that I said in my review. Was like, this doesn't make any sense. You can't sell more games than you have consoles.
Well,
I mean, you could,
can.
But it doesn't happen.
Well, yeah.
You don't sell, like, Jeff, I sold like 40 million more copies than I did consoles.
So just your console chews discs up, that's what it is. And
Clearly.
people love the game so much, they're like, fuck it, I need another one. And ran out to go get their World of Warcraft crack to inject into their veins.
Clearly. And I had trillions of dollars.
Sounds like you need to start making games.
I know, right? I totally know how to make good games. The problem with that game is that you basically, like, if you know what games were popular when, then you just release those games on those systems. Because, like, when you're, like, playing, they start off with just having, like, the Commodore and, like, the PC. And so
Yeah.
you release your games on the Commodore because the PC is shit. And then the NES comes out, and then you release, like, a Mario game and, like, fucking Contra, and then you make a ton of money. And then the PlayStation comes out, and you release Crash Bandicoot, make a ton of money. And so, like, it's just so predictable and boring. And the game provides you with no feedback, which has been a really consistent complaint of mine in in like the last 4 reviews I've done.
Yeah.
It's just like, game does not provide enough feedback to the player to know what the fuck is happening.
It's not enough detail. You're making it for iPhone players.
Yeah, well, the game is really heavily inspired by Game Dev Story, which is an iPhone game. And
Yeah.
Game Dev Story 2 is actually a more complex and, like, in-depth game. And it's for iPhone.
And it's probably 99 cents.
And not $8.
Yeah. Woo!
And then there's another one, it's like Game Industry Biz or something. I can't remember the name of it. It sounds a lot like the site GameIndustry.biz, but that sim is apparently retardedly complicated to the point where it's not fun.
Oh.
But it would probably be fun to you and me because it's like, ooh, incredibly complicated. Oh, look, my game terribly failed. Everyone got incredibly depressed from working extra hours. Yeah.
That happens. You need to provide free energy drinks. And also be near a hospital in case energy drinks cause people to have
Heart attacks.
strange heart attacks and different issues like that.
Sounds super fun.
This is based on a true story.
But yeah, basically, after playing Game Dev Tycoon, I almost want to abandon the game that I am working on because I know that game is way too big and is going to take me a year to do by myself. Well, it's going to take me more than a year to do it by myself. I'll probably spend 9 months working on it and then going, I need to hire people to do this with me to, like, hammer out the last 6 months of work so I can release a $5 game that's not as good as Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. But I feel like I could make a game that's more complicated than Game Dev Story that has building elements like in The Sims. So that, like, you build your own office and have to, like, design it and shit while still maintaining, like, the same level of, like, actual game designing. Like, don't make the game design mechanics harder, but make the, like, office management mechanics more in depth.
Like, you make it so you have to manage your employees and shit.
Well,
Like,
yeah, to, like, a
choose
greater
who you
extent.
hire. Too.
Well, that you do that to a degree inside of Game Dev Tycoon, but, like, you can't set their salaries and shit. So, like, the better they become, like, the more you have to pay them. So if you, like, don't make enough money every month and you accidentally level some guy up, then you just have to fire him.
That's no good.
Yeah. So it's like he's magically become better at making games, and now he just gets paid more.
Oh, you should.
It's like, that's not really how it works.
They should be able to start recognizing the fact that they're underpaid and then ask you, hey, can I get a raise? And then you go, I don't have the money.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they've got a
But it, like, forces you
75%
into
chance
a
to
raise.
leave for another job or something.
Yeah.
You know?
The Sims just overly simple, but I feel like it. My actual complaint about that game, or one of the things I did say about that game, is that, like, it's so simple that you could have hammered that game out, like, in Flash in a weekend. So
Yeah.
I feel like I could do something simple like that game in only a few months, but, like, add more onto it, like office design stuff, where, like, you have to actually design your departments and set up your desks and shit.
Like, the way you set it up can have an effect on employee happiness and their likelihood to leave and that sort of shit.
Yeah, and you could do stuff like put in a retardedly, like, large cafeteria that's free
Yeah.
when you make trillions of dollars.
Have, like, a giant pool out back.
Yes.
It's, like, heated. The cover that expands out, you know. if
My
it's
problem
raining.
is that I hate starting projects, and I hate doing projects by myself because I'm lazy. I'm an idea man, not a doer. I write all my ideas down, too. And I
That's
like,
good.
and I'm
That's
just like,
definitely
this
good.
is exactly how it should work. And I could totally explain this to someone else, but there's no way I'm fucking taking a year out of my life to make this game. I feel like if I did that, I wouldn't need to do this podcast or go to school. I could be if I could self motivate, I could make a game and
But you
be
have to
done with
fund it
this.
too.
Wow.
You'd have to crowdsource fund it. So you'd want to almost like continue
Yeah,
doing the
but
podcast, work away at it until you have something to show, and then look for donations.
yeah, or I could not fund it at all and just do all my own art because I mean, really I wanted to be an illustrator. I could do the game in 2D. I can draw, Jeff. Little known fact, I can draw.
But you hate pixel art.
I That's why I would illustrate everything myself instead
But
of doing pixel art.
pixel art.
No,
When you mod Minecraft, you don't have a choice.
Jeff. People like you, when they make their own games, use pixel art because they're not good enough to illustrate or model or texture.
I can model okay,
But
not
can you
good.
texture on top of that?
I can UV map it.
Ah, yeah.
I can't draw well enough to make a nice texture.
Yeah, see, I can draw well enough to illustrate some shit and animate it, so... Well, I'd have to learn the animating part. I mean, I've done a bit of animation, but I'm not good at it.
Animating is
I
a bit of a
understand the
bitch.
idea of it. You put in keyframes and they move.
It's a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, I know.
You've seen my walk cycles. They all turn out extremely flamboyant.
Your walk cycles are amazing.
Every single one is like, holy crap, that is some butt wiggle. God damn.
But besides that, I've been playing a really amazing game that
Yeah?
has reaffirmed me in the strategy genre. Eodor Masters of the Broken Realm, which is a game I've talked about before, but in a negative light in that it did not run because it was too buggy. They
Yeah.
spent the last month fixing the bugs, and now the game is playable. And it's amazing.
How playable, though? I hear it still crashes a lot.
I said it crashes a lot to you the other day, but
Yeah.
it's highly playable. It only hangs every once in a while, depending on the choice. And then, like, the way that one of the issues with that game is that when you make choices, like, they're predetermined. They're not totally predetermined, but they're determined several turns in advance.
Yeah.
And so, like, you'll get an RPG event that pops up where it's like the people are like, or it'll be like a witch has moved into town and the people don't like that. And it'll be like, you can drive her away, but then she'll possibly curse you. You can let her stay, and it'll generate more gems as like an income in the province. Or you can ignore it. So let's say you click on let her stay, and
Yeah.
then the game will just hang. Like every once in a while, it'll just hang. And it'll
Wow.
never complete the AI's turn. And then you close the game, you reload it, and like from the turn before, and you make the same move, the same random event will pop up, and if you make the same choice, the game will hang.
Oh, that's just they're not doing random well. They must be saving like the random seed with your turn.
Yeah. And so then
Yeah.
the game will hang again. So then you have to reload, and you make the same move, and the same event comes up, and you have to make a different choice, or else it'll hang again.
So it's like one
So it's like
working choice.
sometimes where it's just like the choice that you want to make, you can't because the game crashed, and now you have to make sure to avoid it when you get to that point again. However, the game auto-saves after every single turn, so like
Yeah.
if it crashes, you're never that far behind. Like you're only a couple minutes. So,
Yeah. That's good.
but the gameplay's amazing. Huge learning curve to that game. It's like a learning cliff, really. But it really quickly flattens out because of the way that difficulty is handled in that game. Difficulty does not affect the AI at all. Difficulty only it basically acts as like a handicap, like in a fighting game or anything else.
Yeah.
So like if you give a player a handicap, it basically is just a handicap bonus. So on on the very easiest difficulty, you start off with 1,000 gold, and on the hardest difficulty, you start off with like 500.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect anything else. Which means that when you're new to the game and you don't really understand the rules of the game yet, the AI will kick your ass. And because of how long it takes to play out a match, because it's like over 50 hours, if you lose the first beginning set of shards, which are all like each shard that you fight for gives you new technology, and with that new tech you get stronger units, like straight up stronger units to
Yeah.
put in like your heroes' armies. And so if you lose too many shards in a row, the AI will literally just be stronger than you, and there's no way you'll ever beat them.
Yeah.
So then you just have to restart the campaign over from the beginning. And
Yep.
it's over 60 hours long.
Have fun.
Yeah. So, but I've been having an insane amount of fun with that game. I think I played it for 60 hours in the last 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a huge time sink. I'll like go to play it to like beat like for an hour, and like 8 hours later, I'll be like,
You surface
"Fuck, I'm
back out from your
hungry."
computer like, what the hell? It's dark out.
Yeah, I'll just be like, I'm kind of hungry. I'm gonna get some food. Oh shit, it's midnight.
Best one would be like you start playing when it's light out, and then you look out the window and the sun's on the opposite side of the sky, and you're just like, shit. Been playing all night.
Yeah, that game's it's really good for a $20 game, and it's a huge improvement over Eodor Genesis, which came out in like 2009. So it's just totally worth playing. It's like one of the best strategy games I've played in a very long time.
It's good.
There's some balance issues with the game, but they're not really
Well,
balance issues. It's like
They bug issues, bug
no,
balance issues.
it's just like there's four types of heroes. There's warriors, commanders, scouts, and mages.
Yeah.
And like the commander is probably the weakest one of them all. His special ability is that he can put more units in his army. But he doesn't have a lot of health, he doesn't do a lot of damage. Like
Yeah.
he just buffs his army. This scout's pretty good because their range, they can pretty much shoot anyone on the map. And they can do a lot of damage with the bow if you get them enough equipment. The warrior is OP because he has so much health that like nothing can kill him, and he just walks up to stuff and one-shots it. So I usually have like an incredibly small army, but I have a warrior as my hero. And I basically just try to get him good equipment, because you could fight a full army with just the warrior and kill everyone.
What if the opposing army has a warrior as well?
If the AI managed to get a warrior with equivalent gear, you will definitely lose, because they will do like the entire army will do like 10 damage to you out of your 120 health, and then the other warrior will have 10 health more than you and kill you. But
Yeah.
like warrior's just the fucking strongest. I don't even ever buy a second hero just because the warrior's so strong that if I just put gear on him, then he can conquer everything.
Sounds fairly strong.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. So that game's just totally worth playing. I have to suggest it to almost everyone.
Have you been playing anything else interesting this week?
No, I'm finally going to bother writing my review for Eodor. So that's
Right.
that's tonight. That's been last night, and it's going to be tonight, and I'll probably end up recording it tomorrow morning. I'm not really sure. It's going to take a while because there's so many mechanics in that game, like that don't necessarily have a ton of depth. But I mean, there's so much there because it's a grand strategy game, it's a turn-based game, and it's a tactics game with RPG elements. So there's so much to talk about in order to
Yeah.
actually cover everything in that game. So
I see. Well, good luck with that.
It'll be fun. It'll be a long review. I would expect it. I'm not. I've only talked about the grand strategy element where like you choose shards to attack up to this point, and I
Huh.
think it's about 7.5 minutes of talking.
God.
So this'll be fun. It's like a page just talking about like the issues with the grand strategy element, but like how I like it, but you can't fix those issues. It's
Hmm.
mainly an issue with snowballing, but I don't really want to get into it because there's
Okay.
it's a lot to
Yeah, there's
explain. It's a lot
there's
to
another
explain just
place
the
for it.
snowballing. There will be another place where I explain the issues
The entire game in detail with footage.
with footage. Um, Low FPS footage. That game has optimization issues. I had a hard time recording at 30 FPS because that game runs at 40. So
Yeah. Should we move on to our first topic?
yeah, I just need to open my web browser, which might cover up your camera. I can't remember what screen it was on.
Oh God.
It was on my other screen. I
Oh,
just need to open up the document because I forgot what the first two topics were, and I know what the last two are because I didn't put them in the document.
Ah, I don't even have the document, so
I didn't bother linking it to you because some of the stuff's old as shit. Okay then, first topic. Let's go back 3 weeks.
woo!
Woo! I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm always
It's like time
excited.
traveling.
It is really, although we kind of already lived that. Like time traveling is a little more interesting if you go back, to a point when you weren't alive. But
I'll go back 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago,
it's
I
good
had
enough.
money for food. This week, I don't.
Oh,
I spent it on food
I see.
and gas.
I see. Should just live off like Mr. Noodles, cheap
I can't
99
eat
cent
them; they
things.
make me sick.
Oh,
That's my biggest issue with food money. It's like I can eat, but every meal costs me $20 because if I eat cheap, I just get sick.
oh God, it's not.
Yeah, it's
My
okay.
week's my
So,
week's worth of food came out to $30.
oh gee, man, I eat $30 a day worth
Oh
of
God.
food.
Oh God.
Ugh.
All right.
Uh,
What's our topic?
Gearbox and Sega class action lawsuit out of California, I think. So they're getting this isn't more this isn't so much about the actual lawsuit because the lawsuit itself isn't all that interesting. So Gearbox and Sega are being sued for false advertising for Aliens Colonial Marines because the game was bad. And they're specifically referencing the E3 demos and as like the basically as the false advertisement because they showed off features which were not in the game.
Yeah. So, I think the biggest issue here is if they win this,
Well, the
it
issue
could,
is precedence because it sets a precedence that the game industry can't really live with
yeah,
because the issue is that like yeah, there was stuff in the E3 demo that was not in the final game and the game was bad. And the E3
yeah,
demo looked good because its job was to look good. The vertical slice of gameplay contained stuff that was not within the final game in the final product.
yeah.
But they always say it's not representative of the final product anyways. Like at all
Hmm.
the E3 demos because it's not. It never has been. The game's not done yet. But the thing is that you could apply this to good games as well or
Hmm.
even just okay games. I mean, if you sue Gearbox and Sega for this and it passes, then what's to stop me from suing Ken Levine for BioShock Infinite? Because there was
Yeah.
stuff in the E3 demo that wasn't in the
There's a
final
lot of
game.
stuff in the E3 demo that wasn't in the final game for BioShock, but BioShock's a good game, so nobody wants to sue them because nobody's pissed off that the game's bad. But if you look at the E3 demo, it looks better. At least some portions of it do.
Yeah, And the thing is, like, it just sets a precedence that you can't ha- you can't have set for the game industry. It doesn't kill it, but it certainly kills the idea of anyone having access to the game before release day.
It kills the idea of showing gameplay before your game's ready. Because if you show gameplay that you've specifically crafted, like one specific instance, because you believe it's going to be good advertising and it's something you want to get into the game, but maybe due to different reasons and pressures you can't, you're fucked if people can sue you. So basically, either they have to show really conservative gameplay, this is what we have working now and probably won't take out at all, or we're not showing you shit.
Yeah, but they're not going to show you the conservative stuff because everything's just going to look like COD then.
It's going to be boring as shit.
Yeah, it's not going to sell your game. Everyone's just going to say it's derivative because it is.
Yeah. Well,
Because
that's
it's
what
just
the games
basic
industry
FPS.
is.
Like if you're showing an FPS, it's just basic FPS elements. You point and shoot shit.
Yeah.
Like they're never going to show anything interesting. They're never going to show a game that's in development. They're only ever going to release the game. They probably wouldn't even release game like review copies and shit anymore because they're not showing any gameplay beforehand. So who cares about doing reviews? Like
Yeah.
there won't be any
Well, they can
material
do
that you
review
can actually
copies.
look at the. They could, but why bother?
But the idea is it's more of like you're never gonna show people the bar that you're aiming for with your game, you know? You're never gonna be like, this is what we want to make, and this is what we're showing you. We have this working real time, but it is a vertical, like it is just a taste of what we want to do. It's not what we have done, because your game's not fucking that good at E3. You've created this one specific little room with all this like these specific events that aren't necessarily going to be in the game just to show off how cool you want to make it, right? But then usually due to time constraints and complications and shit, you just can't do that for the whole game. It's not feasible. And what they're going to do is they're just going to eliminate that whole process of this is what we want to make the game look like and turn it into you can't see the game until it's pretty much done. You can see it a month before it's gold and we get ready to release it. But that's about it. Because there's a lot of axing of features in games, like a lot. And there's a lot of it's very dynamic. There's a lot of changing that goes on as you're developing, and it just shit like this is just
You
not.
probably axe more features than you actually end up in the final game.
Yeah,
Like pretty
Um,
consistently.
by
You know what I
count,
mean? Like
yeah. Maybe not by like depth, like the size of features, but even look at like Diablo. We were playing the Diablo 3. We were playing the beta, and they swapped like
everything
every
out.
system except for the skills. Everything just fucking gone in like a month.
Yeah, it not even. It was like a weekend.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
Well, they probably did all the development a month
Oh well,
beforehand.
yeah, they probably did all the development over
But
before it was changed. But it was literally like one day we're on, the next day we're on, and it's all different and terrible.
and shitty. Uh, they swapped out everything, and they had trailers with those features in them. So this same fucking thing can apply to Diablo 3, and I bet you I can find something like this in almost every E3 trailer that's been released to date.
Probably. I mean, that's what a vertical slice of
Yeah.
game is. It's
You don't look at the rest of the game, you just develop that one tiny little portion that you think is going to be awesome, and you show it to people. And then as things change, you can't, keep that portion playing the way you had it playing at E3 because it's probably hacked together like it's like building a house, like building your house on the beach out of driftwood. That's what that shit is that they show you. Right? That's not the final product. It's not even close. It'll fall apart if you poke it too hard. I don't know. It's a scary, scary lawsuit, and I really hope they fail.
yeah, it can't pass. It would
There's no
hurt
way.
the game industry like in a very substantial way.
Yeah, it would destroy like things like E3 and anything that previews games would just be
It wouldn't
fucked.
destroy them. Like E3 is supposed to be essentially a trade show for investors. What it would do is it would definitely remove all the public showings of it. I mean, what it would kill would definitely kill stuff like PAX because they actually show their games off more substantially than they do at E3. At E3, they barely show them because
Yeah.
Like, the idea isn't really show them off. The idea is to gather investors, and so I mean, most of the important stuff at E3 is all done behind doors, not on
Yeah.
the floor. The floor is a mess. I've said this about E3 before because I've actually been there, and I feel like no one has any reason to be there except for people with a substantial amount of money. It's not a convention; it's a trade show, and the people who treat it as a convention should not be there because it is not a convention. It should be press, and it should be investors. That's it.
Yeah. It's not a public showing. Well, it
No,
is a public showing,
PAX
but
makes a much better
yeah.
venue for that. E3 used to be good, but then they made it public, and it's fucking broken as shit.
Hmm. I don't know.
Sorry, I'm
That's.
scrolling back through news trying to find this one thing that was like a while ago. Now I can't find it. Because people
Do you remember
post
what it
news
was?
way too fucking quickly. It's okay, we can move on to the next thing. So, because I find this hilarious, this is such a piece of non-news that I feel like we have to talk about it. So, EA and everyone else will continue to not license guns for their 2013 releases.
Didn't a couple games have to change the names of guns? So like the M4s were all changed to like
You
certain
have to,
certain
but
guns.
don't have to.
Yeah.
EA essentially announced that they aren't going to pay licensing fees for guns anymore in their 2013 games because
Yeah.
they use real-life guns and they keep the logos of the manufacturers on the weapons in the models.
Yeah.
But they never did, in the first place, ever pay any licensing fees. They've said that they've never paid licensing fees last year. And now, because they've had so much bad press as of late, they just decided, I guess, that they would bring it back up again and say that they aren't going to do it this year, making it sound like they didn't do it last year. Or, I mean, making it sound like they did do it last year.
Yeah.
Basically, like, trying to play off of, like, everyone's hatred of gun manufacturers in America lately, I guess. But they've never paid licensing fees for any of their major titles. Most games don't. Call of Duty doesn't either.
Mm. I feel like very few games do. I feel like maybe like SOCOM would.
No, because they're big enough that they can get away with it, and they already are creating accurate, like, representations of the guns, I guess, inside of other games that don't pay, like Battlefield.
Yeah.
So why would SOCOM pay?
I don't know. It just seems like something they do.
It seems like the PBS Idea channel did like a big thing talking about when like you play games like Call of Duty, they pay licensing fees for guns, and so it ended up becoming a big issue.
Yeah.
Like that particular video went viral basically, and it became incredibly popular. And there was like a big uproar about it on the internet among gamers. But the thing that they didn't really acknowledge is that most of those companies, gun companies and games companies, generally work in like a very there's a word. Ah, fuck! I left my Steam on. Sorry for that large beeping sound, everyone. Normally my sounds are turned off on Steam. But they work in a relationship that's basically mutually beneficial, and so they generally never do any licensing fees together. Guns. The only time that I can think of where any money exchanged hands was that they did official gun, like Guns of Warfare in the last Modern Warfare game, where they put like these badges on the like website of weapons manufacturers for like the last Modern War, or not the last Modern Warfare, for the last Medal of Honor. They did like official Guns of Medal of Honor or some shit, but that money was actually directly going to charity. So like manufacturers would pay like $50,000 to be like an official sponsor of the game, but that $50,000 went to charity, didn't like go to EA. So it wasn't like an advertising thing. I mean, they just got advertising in return for their charitable donation. But this is such a piece of non-news, and I feel like people need to call out EA on like this blatant PR exploit.
Yeah,
because that's what
it's hard to like I'm not seeing much proof that EA did or didn't pay for
um
like gun licensing previously.
Ars Technica did a piece on it.
Okay.
Where
I don't know.
EA actually said it.
It's not even like a big issue at all. Doesn't really matter. I mean,
Okay, sorry. I can you give me a second? I'm
yeah,
about to break the cameras, everyone. I apologize. And now they're returned. I had to open up the chat. If you look there, you can see like that article is by Ars Technica,
yeah,
and they contacted Activision about it, but EA actually said last year that they've never like directly transferred money between them or to them with any kind of weapons manufacturers. So they've never licensed guns then, which
yeah.
means that
Their story of we're not going to license guns anymore, it just doesn't mean anything other than the fact that they got to say it out loud.
yeah, pretty much. It's just a PR move to make people like them,
Yeah,
and it's kind of shameless.
that's what PR is, though.
Yeah, this is what happens when big companies like Routers and Forbes decide to try to be games journalists. Because, to be honest, I don't think anyone trusts the New York Times or Routers as a source for games information. Not that many actual game sites are much better than them. In fact, much of them are a lot worse, like Kotaku. But we'll talk about Kotaku later this week. We'll talk about them on the podcast that we will be doing on Sunday or Saturday or whenever the fuck we do it. Because they did some more stupid shit this week.
Hmm. All right.
Uh,
Licensing is just silliness.
yes. Okay, fuck, there was another topic. I didn't write it down. Oh god. This is what happens when I don't write things down because I have terrible memory from receiving multiple head injuries. Yes, EA. There was another thing, and it was EA now has exclusive rights to manufacture Star Wars core games.
Hey, have they ever made a good Star Wars game? Well, they have, but have they done one recently?
Well, the only one they've done recently is the Old Republic, and it's awful. It's the Tortanic.
Ugh. It's not who you want to give your license to.
So a lot of people are kind of excited about this because they're basically thinking Battlefront 3 goes to DICE because
That would be good.
they make Battlefield. My
That could be
problem
good.
is that Battlefield 3 was a bad game. They kind of took out everything that made Battlefield 2 good in order to like consoleize the game, but they took out everything that made Bad Company 2 good to make the game more hardcore, I guess. They made the game more serious like Battlefield 2 was, but
Hmm.
they took out all the stuff that made Battlefield 2 good. So it's just
So
like
they combine
it
the
was.
worst aspects of two different games to create a new game. Ooh.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I feel like Battlefield 3 is a huge disappointment. I feel like most people who were hardcore into Battlefield 2 or Bad Company 2 didn't like Battlefield 3 because it wasn't very good. It didn't do the rush mode as well, and it didn't do conquest as well, and it simplified the team roles into 4 roles instead of the original 7.
Yeah.
So it just ended up not being as good by like
Uh,
basically over streamlining it and having worse level design.
I just like the graphics for that game. When I play that game, I'm just looking around like, ooh, everything's fancy.
Yeah, that's the only thing there is to like from a gameplay standpoint. So I feel like if they took what I'm saying is the DICE that made Battlefield 2 isn't the same DICE, obviously, because they wouldn't have fucked up Battlefield 3.
Yeah.
And so, even though it would be nice to see a game like Battlefield as a Star Wars game in the fashion of Battlefront, I don't know if they'll do it as well as Battlefront 1 or 2 ever did.
Yeah.
And the biggest disappointment would be to follow up Battlefront 2 with an okay game. I think that would be even worse actually than following it up with a bad game. Because if it's bad, it's bad. But
Yeah.
to be bad, they likely tried something interesting. Because that's really the only way that you could make a bad FPS at this stage. Because if you otherwise you just go with the tried and true formula of Battlefield
Or Call of Duty, yeah.
or COD. But at least they tried something interesting that's bad and the franchise is over. But if it's just mediocre, then it's just a huge disappointment because you can see that they didn't try.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm probably the only person in the world who's like, oh fuck, they're gonna make a mediocre Battlefield 3, or I mean not Battlefield 3, Battlefront 3, whereas everyone else is like excited as shit for it.
Because they're gonna make a Battlefront 3.
Obviously,
They're like, oh my god, it's gonna be amazing.
well, they're obviously gonna make it. Otherwise, because DICE is confirmed to be making a Star Wars game, what are they gonna make?
Oh shit, really? Okay. Well then, yeah. Battlefront 3 it is.
Yeah, and BioWare will be making one as well as Visceral. Is that the guys who did Dead Space?
It could be interesting. That's a lot of Star Wars.
While they have several years, like they only have a few years as like exclusive. I think they have. I can't remember the exact date or exact number of years, but they're the only company allowed to make core Star Wars games. They're not allowed to make casual games, so they can't make like Simpsons Tapped Out Star Wars Edition or Angry Birds Star Wars, which already exists. But they can't make shit like that. They have to make core games like Battlefront and shit like that.
Yeah.
But BioWare's Star Wars RPG, because that's all BioWare. Well, it's RPG in quotes because really it's just going to be some action game with an okay story. A good story for the genre of action game, but it's going to be not so good.
Spiritual successor to Mass Effect,
But Star Wars,
maybe?
sure, pretty much.
I could see that.
But I don't like BioWare's stories. I feel like I'm one of the few people who actually think BioWare's writing is really fucking cliche and boring.
It's pretty cliche. It's fairly boring. It's still good for games though. Like there's a couple games that are better, but not that
I
many.
would prefer. Okay, here's my issue. They have a really boring and bad morality and choice system
In every game,
in
yeah.
every game. And I
Since
feel like if
like
they just made a linear story with their writing capabilities, it would be a way better game than when they try to do all these arcs but do it wrong. Because they know like they clearly don't understand the idea of having a divergent story. If the story diverges, it has to continue to diverge, and you have to lock the player into their choices. And you can't put in some BS morality
well, they
system where it's like blue or red. That only works in D&D games because you have like chaotic evil and chaotic good and lawful evil and shit where they actually affect your dialogue options. They don't do that in Mass Effect and BioWare games though. They're like, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, because we don't believe in making the player actually having to make permanent choices.
wasn't Knights of the Old Republic by BioWare?
Yes.
That one actually like two-thirds of the way through the game you choose Sith or Jedi, and then you're stuck with it. And like I believe no matter what you've done beforehand, you can choose, but at that point the story actually diverges, and that's the only BioWare game I can think of where your choices change the rest of the game permanently.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, they need to do that again. Because that's really what they've been missing in
Yeah,
every
and they
game
need to
since.
avoid the morality system that Mass Effect has because it doesn't make any sense. The way that the Witcher series handles choices is way better because they give you a series of choices that you make that and they don't tell you which one's the good one, which one's the bad one. You just make the choices and live with the consequences of them.
Yeah, that's better. It can be harder to follow though. Like I, yeah. It's a hard choice for a developer to make between those two. It's an
What?
easy
Color
choice.
coding your fucking morality system or not color coding it? Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, it is because it's harder for people to follow your morality system if you don't color code it. They don't know what's going on. They get
There shouldn't
frustrated.
even be a morality system. It's stupid. It only makes sense in D&D. Outside of D&D, it makes no sense.
They're trying it. Well, they've been trying it for years, though.
Yeah, and it's never been good.
Eh, I don't know. I'm hoping we get something like Knights of the Old Republic. We get something good.
They're not going to
We'll
make
see.
a game like Knights of the Old Republic, though. Not mechanically like Knights of the Old
Not
Republic.
mechanically, but just good. Like I just want it to be the same level of like, yeah, that game was awesome. But I doubt we'll see that.
I just want EA to whore out the license to everyone who wants it because they're allowed to do that and let other people make them and not EA.
Can they like take a percentage because they own the license?
Yes. They're actually allowed to license it out to other people.
Yeah.
Make Obsidian make Knights of the Old Republic 3 in old school RPG fashion, like a CRPG. After they finish Project Eternity and every other Kickstarter game that they did.
They did a bunch.
They have 2 of them, I think.
Hmm.
Or no, it's not them who have 2. They only have Project Eternity. It's In Exile who has Wasteland 2 and Tides of Numenaria, which are both games I kickstarted. I've kickstarted like 9 games.
Oh God, I don't think I've done one.
Next year's gonna be amazing when I get all these games out of nowhere and go, oh fuck, I got all these gigantic 100-hour long RPGs.
Oh God, you have to do reviews for all of them.
I'm going to.
Have fun.
I'm gonna beat them and review them 3 months after they came out.
Have
Because
fun.
CRPGs are like that. They're hundreds of hours long, and then you finish them, and you're like, fuck, where did the last 3 months go? There was a summer where I played Dragon Age Origins, just that game, entire summer.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I played like 8 hours a day.
Well, you put the mods in and stuff, right? So you made it like
I
to
made it
300
hundreds of
hours or
hours
some
long.
shit. Yeah.
I
Pretty
have
retarded.
500. I still have that save file. I have 500 hours on one character.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's
Fuck. I
that's a
don't think I
quarter
put
of how
more than,
long I
like,
played
60.
CS Source for.
Oh my God.
Steam reset my fucking Counter-Strike hours a couple years back, and I've never been able to get them back over 1,000. I'm really upset about that, actually, because I had over 2,000
Jesus. I don't think I'm over like 24 hours.
in any
Not
game.
no, 24 like no. I think I've got probably 24 days in League of Legends, I'll be honest. But
I was nearing a year of logged in time on my one character in WoW.
it's crazy.
Yeah, makes you want to puke.
All that time you spent doing awesome stuff, why would that make you want to puke?
Awesome stuff, okay. Only Vanilla and Burning Crusade had awesome stuff. Everything else was.
But all those dailies, those are so sweet.
But there didn't used to be dailies.
Oh.
Those came in with the Burning Crusade, and there were barely any of them.
It shows
Now,
you how
now
much
you have like 30 dailies every day to do.
Yeah.
I literally logged in and I was like, I need to go and farm rare herb resources so that I can sell them on the auction house and make flasks.
I remember
I had a chart. It was a giant like chart. It was a map of the game world, the entire game world, and I pinned the location of all of this type of herb with the time code on when they'll respawn next, and I had timers set up so that I could go and get them.
oh God. I only got to level 60 in that game. And then I would I
Well, this was
refused to
back when
buy
I
any
was level
expansions.
60,
Yeah.
because that was the level cap.
Yeah, and I was like I got to do in one daily and I went it was like a fishing daily. I was
Ugh.
like oh God.
I never
What am I
did
doing?
dailies ever. I never
I
got
just
into them.
closed it.
They're retarded. They killed that game.
Well, they're really common now. Everybody has dailies.
Yeah, I know.
It's just to force you to come back every day, right?
Yeah, pretty
Because
much.
you've already invested so much time, so you should keep it going.
It's cancerous. That game's dead. They just lost like 3 million subs
Yeah. No,
in
it's
like the
dying
last
off now.
month.
Hmm.
Um. Oh fuck! What was the last thing that I was going to talk about? The site's moving so slowly. Oh yes, Warner Bros. And Take Five, the guys who made
Oh yeah, the
Scribblenauts, are being sued by Keyboard Cat and Nyan Cat for copyright infringement, which I find humorous in the case of Nyan Cat, because Nyan Cat is literally just a gathering of other people's works
hmm
in a GIF. Well, it's not a GIF. There's a song that goes with it that he didn't
the
make.
song is stolen from Leak Spin or whatever,
Yeah, it's taken from someone else.
something like that.
Nyan Cat's hilarious. Keyboard Cat, not so much, even though it was filmed in the 80s.
Yeah. I feel there's no merit to that at all because
There is
those
a
have been
legitimate
thrown
merit
around.
because they're copyrighted, and they were copyrighted in 2011, and there's been a game released for the Scribblenauts since then. If they didn't release the last Scribblenauts game, they wouldn't be getting sued.
Oh, because it's just fucking everywhere on the internet. Like it's spread around like wildfire. I feel like copywriting a meme is kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of it, but it was copyrighted in 2011. And we've had a release since their copyright.
Yeah. Well, that's shitty.
So I mean
Um,
there's a legitimate reason that they're getting sued. I just have a moral obligation to the idea of copywriting a meme,
yeah.
especially ones involving cats, because they usually have no artistic merit. They're usually just stupid cat videos.
That's just silly though. I'm
It
sure
is.
there's a million things that they can be sued for in Scribblenauts. I feel like they have Harry Potter references and shit in there.
Warner Bros. Owns that though,
Oh,
and they're the publisher.
okay.
That's why there's Harry Potter references.
That makes sense. That would
They own the rights to those references, Jeff.
yeah. Well then, okay. My point. I don't know the game well enough to try and think of anything else, but I feel like there would be other copyright issues in there, and the people who are suing them are fucking Nyan Cat and Keyboard Cat.
Yeah, I feel like there's the real issue isn't really just suing them for copyright for including copyrighted material in their game. Like, does that have merit? That obviously has merit. That's a thing. The real question is, can you copyright a meme? Because it's fucking stupid.
Can you justify copywriting a meme? Apparently you can, but not as a
It's
real
stupid.
human being.
There's some terrible cancer going on with memes, and I can't deal with it anymore.
Meme
Makes my
cancer.
balls shrivel.
Meme cancer is just terrible for your balls. That's what I've
Yeah,
heard today.
that's exactly what it is. There's a commercial with fucking sad face dude. This is how out of touch I am with memes. Dude who's
Sad
crying.
face, dude.
Dude who's always forever alone.
Keanu Reeves?
Forever no, fucking the forever alone face.
Oh yeah, okay. What?
Yeah, there's a commercial with that in it. It's like you can't just put that in there. This is how out of touch I am with memes. I don't even. They're terrible. They've been destroyed. Especially rage faces are the worst. They're the worst part of the internet. Besides
Because
Mormons.
the 12-year-olds make them now?
Yes.
It's like was writing test broke pencil.
I hate to sound like a hipster, but literally the popularization of memes killed them.
Well, bet.
popularization of just like nerd culture in general killed the entire thing. Reddit's the cancer killing the internet. And Kotaku is the cancer killing gaming.
Apparently.
Besides our games and our gaming, those are the worst gaming boards on the internet. That's my issue. See, I don't use Reddit outside of being linked to shit on our games and our gaming, and then I just get mad. I'm just like, this whole place sucks.
It's just,
Those two boards are the worst gaming boards on the internet. I don't know why anyone reads them.
I don't.
They're
I go
terrible.
on Reddit all the time. I never look at our gaming.
They're terrible. One of them isn't even about video games. It's worse than V. It's all terrible.
It's all bullshit and it's bad for you.
Yep. So I guess it's about time to wrap this up. We've been going for like an hour now.
Yeah.
An hour and a half.
Didn't have any massive topics to cover.
No, I felt we had 4 good topics. Well,
Yep.
3 good topics.
There's no crazy rants. We're both kind of agreeing on both of them, or on all of them.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If Justin were here, we could, I don't know, get blackout drunk again. I don't remember much of that podcast. I was too drunk to be mad at him. Otherwise, I would
Oh
have
God.
screamed or something.
Like your regular, like, rah! Or like a full-on rage scream.
I don't know. Both.
Different times.
Yeah. So, I guess it's time to wrap up this 14th episode of the Dapper Gaming Podcast on the 14th of May. I've been your host, Ryan, and, this fine gentleman has been Jeffrey, who should, definitely try to make some time to, come to my place on Saturday and, play some board games.
Can't
So,
publicly post that shit to convince me to go. It doesn't work.
It's publicly posted, and I expect some people to go to Jeff's Twitter, which is right in the video,
Oh
at
God.
@GGolmer, 2 G's,
Be like
2 L's,
The 5th person who's ever tweeted me.
and
It'll be wonderful.
tell that man to bring him and his old lady over to fucking board game night.
My old lady, wouldn't that be my mother?
No, man, your old lady's just like your lady.
I feel like your old lady is your mother.
No,
Or is your
that's
your
just
lady
not-
is your girlfriend.
Nah,
All right.
they're the same thing.
All right.
I would know. I'm from a fishing family.